Hey guys, Keith Hernandez here. Welcome back to another cast and chat. Today we'll be casting the Panther. This cowl is very special to me. It's kind of been a driving factor to my love and passion for the bat suit, specifically the Panther suit. 1995 was a year of a different approach for Batman, if you will, and the movie is uniquely different compared to the ones prior to it. But one thing that stood out to me as a kid was the look of his suit. The Panther suit is so sleek and so stylized in a way that takes a little bit from the Keaton and really spices it up into what is, I think, the definitive look of Batman that I have always loved and has never been topped, even though there's been so many other good iterations since it. But I have been after this cowl and nothing ever really hit the mark for me until I had the opportunity to work on it. And I've actually been sitting on this for quite some time. I sculpted it, I would say 5 years ago, working off of a 3D scan of a production cowl, and then printed it maybe 3 or 4 years ago, and it's just been sitting in the corner of my shop staring at me. And now I have finally completed it, and I love every bit of it. And I'm going to walk through, cast it, chat about it. We'll talk about how wrong I was about Netflix buying Warner Brothers and the future of the DCU. If there is a future, we'll find out maybe in the next year or two, but we'll talk about it. Until then, we're gonna head to the shop and cast this guy out. Hey guys, Keith Hernandez here. We're in the shop now, going to start the casting process of this. It's a long time coming. I think I've already said this. I can't say it enough. This is truly my favorite cowl ever, and I'm so happy to finally be casting out of this particular mold. This sculpture has been sitting in the shop for years, and to finally get to this moment is great. It's funny enough, this is not the first time doing the Panther cowl. I actually sculpted one myself about 20 years ago. It was a great experience because I learned a lot from that particular sculpture. It was the first silicone mold I ever made, first time making a fiberglass jacket for that silicone mold. I learned a ton. I learned that silicone captures the surface detail, including sheen of whatever you're molding. And at that time, it was like my second major sculpture, and I did not, this would be my first silicone. So before I used plaster, and I didn't have to do any prep work for the sculpture because you're casting in latex, and latex is usually plasti dipped. But this one, I left the sculpture raw, and it captured all the different sheens from slicking and smoothing the surface. It still looked great. It was a great cowl for my second go. And then, of course, the fiberglass. I fiberglassed in the middle of the summer in Texas and a garage. So every time I tried to lay up, it would be kicking off extremely fast, and it was cheap fiberglass bought from the resin was bought from Home Depot. So lots learned. It was an ugly mold, but it did its purpose. But here we are 20 years later. Silicone is platinum instead of tin, and I've printed the jacket, so a lot has changed. This guy's got really big ears, so pre-filled those with 60 grams. That's both 60A and 60B mixed together. And then we'll do the regular formula that I do for 24-inch, which is 480 grams broken up into 3 runs, and everything's been pre-mixed except for the kick it, because if I put the kick it in, it starts to kind of do some weird stuff. So we're going to be pouring kick it and then casting and chatting. I really wanted to kind of talk about the future of the DCU, because I think the future of the DCU is kind of up in the air. It actually kind of goes back to the first cast and chat, which I think is, the conversation is quite dated now, because in that one we were talking about how Netflix was buying Warner Brothers and Paramount was the spoiled kind of rich child that isn't getting their way. And lo and behold, what's happening now? Paramount's getting their way in what I consider to be probably the most bizarre buyout that I can comprehend. I don't, look into buyouts too often, but when I look at the numbers and I read all the headlines, the math does not add up with Paramount buying Warner Brothers. It's actually quite interesting, because I did a lot of look of like worth. We talked about it in the first one that, Netflix is worth like close to $400 billion. The most, I think, the highest worth in the industry in terms of movies and such, even though they're not really a theatrical releasing kind of studio. And then when you look at total net worth, I think, of Paramount, there's a lot of numbers that you can see that pulls up, but they're looking at like total value is $45 billion, but they're in debt, and I think actual value is much lower than that. When you look at Warner Brothers total value is, well, it's now worth $100 billion according to Paramount. So it begs to ask the question, how on earth is a company that's significantly smaller in worth buying a company worth more? It's nuts. Of course, Warner Brothers is in debt. They're not actually worth $100 billion. They have, I think, $30 billion in debt. So they have a lot of variables in that worth assessment. But somehow the math is mathing up for Paramount to pull this off. I think they have a lot of investors from other countries, and begs to question if this is even going to happen. I think one of the countries is Saudi Arabia, and they're dealing with a lot of crap right now. So I don't know. But if it does go through, I think Warner Brothers is pulling kind of the... They're making a decision, I think, based on what they can get up front without considering everything else. I think a lot of these people that work for Warner Brothers are going to get dissolved and wiped off. I think Paramount is after the IP that Warner Brothers controls, because they have a lot of juicy IPs. But in terms of maintaining their studios and all the employment, I think that's out the door, and that's a shame, because Netflix, I think, was more positioned to maintain and keep that company intact and use that resource as a growth tactic to have a better grasp in the industry, whereas Paramount, I guess, they're going to need to shave some money somewhere, and unfortunately, people's jobs are the first thing to get shaved off, which is unfortunate, because I think a company as old as Warner Brothers to kind of be cut up like it's probably going to be, it's going to be a bummer. But in terms of Netflix, man, what a solid deal that they got, because they are smart, I guess. I think they see the big picture here. They pull out and get $2.8 billion. That's pretty much for nothing. Breaking the deal, as they say. And I think the big picture is wait and see what Paramount can do, because Warner Brothers might put them under. I don't know, but that's the situation now, which leads into the real conversation. What in the world is going to happen with the DCU, which I think currently is already struggling? You know, we're looking at one movie so far. We've got one coming up here with the Supergirl. They've got an animated series. I guess Peacemaker kind of counts, but I think that that doesn't really count because that's part of a different universe getting smushed together. And then they have Clayface, which I'm not sure if Clayface counts as a DCU property. I don't think they've been fully committed on that. The Batman Part 2 doesn't count. That's totally disconnected. And then they have that with Man of Tomorrow coming up next year, supposedly. I don't know if it's gone into filming yet. Maybe it has. It's a really, really slow start for that whole universe. And with this whole up in the air merger thing happening, what's going to happen? Will this survive? I mean, looking at what's happened so far, Superman, I think it was marginally successful. It definitely wasn't a huge blockbuster, bringing home the bacon kind of movie, but I don't know what the kind of video on demand and DVD sales look like, but I know it wasn't the biggest hit for 25. I mean, it was an okay movie. It's not the thing with the thing that I thought DC always had going for them was, to me, I think of DC, and ever since I was a kid, it's always been that DC is a darker, grittier, less less happy ending, more we're lucky we survived kind of thing. I mean, you look at all the back histories of a lot of their heroes, they're all sad stories. Superman lost an entire planet. Batman lost his parents. The Flash lost his mom. There's so many sad stories that jumpstart those heroes. So it's always been to me like a more realistic interpretation of how these people may have become who they are. And Superman kind of has the more, I guess, happier outlook than its other heroes within the universe. But the Superman that came out last summer just didn't feel like a Superman. I think, the suit really threw off that whole Superman feel. It's not a Superman suit. It's like a Guardians of the Galaxy suit. I mean, it just didn't scream Superman. I think that Corn Sweat is a great Superman. He has a lot of great Superman qualities, but that suit really, I think, takes me out of that character. And a little secret here, Superman is my number one favorite superhero. Ever since I was a kid, he was always my favorite until 89 came out, and then I'm like, I like this Batman. And I like Batman, but not like I did Superman. And that, everything Superman I've seen, and I think that James Gunn's interpretation of the hero had some elements that were great, but you could tell that he took stuff and, like most Hollywood people, tried to make it his own. And I don't think you can do that. These characters are already been made, and you gotta just take them and respect that. But I'm not in Hollywood, so I don't get to make those big decisions. We'll see what the Supergirl is. Supergirl, the trailer just came out, I think, last week, and it feels like it's Guardians of the Galaxy. It's not like it looks like it's going to be in space at some, interesting space places. Maybe it'll make its way to Earth. I don't know, but it just. I think she looks good. She makes she has that Supergirl look to her that, if I see Supergirl, I think that works. I think her suit actually works way better for her than it does for, Corn Sweat, his suit. But I don't know. You got Jason Momoa's Lobo, which seemingly seems like a good cast, but when he started talking, it's like, oh, that's just Jason Momoa. I just don't feel like this character is coming to life with him portraying it. I could be wrong though. It could be just the clips that they're showing in the trailer, but I think it'll be a fun movie. I'll still go see it because, again, I love everything DC, and who knows, it could be a big winner or it could be a big turd. What can we do, though, is if we like it, we watch it. If we don't watch it. All I'm saying is, where is the DCU going? After Supergirl, we have Man of Tomorrow, which I don't know too much about it. I believe it's based on some trade paperback of some sort. I think Brainiac is the rumor, which is causing Superman and Lex to team up. I've always wanted to see Brainiac in the big screen, so hopefully that is the case. But I keep sitting back and thinking, but what's after that? There's not a whole lot of planned out. When you look at Marvel and you're like, we know this is coming out, we know that this is coming out 2 years from now, there's a little bit more to work with. I think Brave and the Bold is still something happening. I'm not really interested in it. I don't know if that whole concept of Damian Wayne and family are gonna be part of it. I'm not interested in that. I've always thought that when you have these superheroes who have, dedicated their life to this purpose of making a change and a difference within their community, world, city, whatever, throwing a kid in the mix is, I think, going in reality would have pretty close to a counteractive result, because I'm a father and everything I did up to that point was about taking care of what I had at that point. But when kids came into the picture, your whole perspective and priority changes. So you got all these kids in these superhero worlds. I don't see, if these are like Superman, for example, if he has a kid, he's always putting himself, putting others before himself, saving the world, and priority. But if you have a kid in the good nature of Superman, it would be like, I can't do this anymore. I've got a kid at home. I need to take care of him. I need to raise him. I can't be saving the world. It just doesn't add up to me. So I'm never a fan when they throw them in there. CW did, I think, a good idea. They made it work because they jumped their entire life and you got to them when they're at teenagers. So they, that whole parenting aspect and that role model aspect isn't needed anymore. But you could see there's holes in that because, their dad is Superman and they're now just finding out. It's like, seems kind of odd that your dad's gone all the time and he's got this weird button thing that grandpa gave him. I don't know. It could be dealt with off screen. We don't need a movie about it. That's why I didn't like Superman Returns. I thought Brandon Routh was a great Superman, but he was not I think, as successful because he had children, or not children, but he had a son at the end, and that just bugged me. And I think it killed the story for me because, like, well, I don't really need a sequel for this. I think that we can end the movie here, but whatever. I mean, it is what it is. So the DCU, we'll see. Oh, and the Clayface. We have Clayface. I don't know if that's DCU. Probably not, because it sounds like it's a horror-esque type movie, and that does not fit in with the happy, peppy-go-lucky DCU that they're trying to create. So what is the point of that? And then, of course, the Batman Part 2, we've talked about. That deserves to stay in its own little world because we don't want to tarnish that, that concept, that idea. So much to look forward to. Of course, this whole Paramount thing goes through. They might shut everything down. And who knows? Bring back Zack Snyder? No, probably not. That guy's days in the DC, I think, are gone. As much as I liked his stories and would love to see his stories finished, I don't think that's a practicality to think he's coming back. And if he were coming back, I doubt some of the other actors would come back unless they're really, really loyal to Zack. But I don't think that's the case either. I don't know. But I do know is that I'll watch whatever they do manage to put out. But look at Marvel. Marvel has, I think, done a good job bouncing back from their disastrous aftermath of Endgame. They had a bunch of stinkers coming out after that, and they're looking at, I think, total redemption. I can't think of the last good Marvel movie that came out. I can't even honestly remember the last Marvel movie I saw in the theaters, and I used to see every single one day one, and maybe the last one I saw was Spider-Man. But Spider-Man's coming, and it looks like it has potential to make us, well, I've already forgotten everything that came out of Endgame, so maybe it will make us remember what Marvel was, and that excites me more than anything DCU's coming out. So we got the Marvel Spider-Man coming out, lots of good rumors of what is going to happen, and I'm for it. Is Sadie Sink Jean Grey? Could be. Or is she... What are some of the other rumors? They had rumors of her being, a daughter or something of Punisher? I don't know. Some intergalactic spider-verse creature thingy. There's so many things. Is Peter becoming man spider? I don't, as much as I think that would be really interesting, I don't know if that's a direction that they would fully commit to. I don't know. That would be so wild if they did commit to that, and he becomes the man spider for a bit. But I don't think so. I definitely think that it could be something marginally similar just to give it a movie version. But I don't think it's going to have, 6 arms and a spider head. That would be really bizarre. Maybe it's the symbiote. People keep saying that there is a speck of that black goo left behind by Venom when he pointlessly showed up in 616 and then pointlessly just disappeared, but left behind a bit of the symbiote. Maybe. I don't know. That doesn't make sense, but it could make sense. that, and then of course you got the Punisher in there. Super excited to finally see him on the big screen and not just on the small screen. Of course, he's got a big special coming out in May that sounds to be a really big to watch, but it's really short. I think it's like an hour, so it's like a quick episode, but hopefully it just starts with a bang. And then Daredevil right now. I mean, I am totally on the Daredevil high. Really, I like Daredevil because he is, in some aspects, not all, but he's kind of like a Batman for the Marvel world, minus having a slight super ability. And I like that. He's dark, vigilante. And that show is really off to a good start in comparison to the first season of Born Again. Which, I mean, I'm not knocking Born Again. It's the first season was good, but I don't remember how many episodes we had to wait until we finally got Daredevil. I hate waiting for that hero because that's the whole reason why we're watching these shows. And then we get to start him off with a bang. He's got the double D's on the chest, which is a long time coming. And of course, greatest studio making superhero costumes made the suit. So props to Ironhead because they are the best. I mean, this cowl, my favorite absolute Batman cowl in existence, was made by Jose Fernandez, and it is, I think, the best look he's ever had, and then the BVS being the second. Then we go into the Keaton stuff, but when it came to anything to deal with the look of Batman, this was the drive for my passion for Batman. I loved the way this suit looked, and I had always wanted it. That's a story for another time, though. I mean, listen, there could be a better Batman coming to someday, but I mean, this will always be my go-to. If someone said, "What's your favorite Batman?" I'd be like, the Panther. A lot of people go to the Sonar for when they think Batman Forever, but for me, when I think Batman Forever, I think of this suit, and I think of this cowl. And I know, we've talked about it before, it had nipples. Who cares? It's still a damn good suit. And I can't wait to make it someday, because I that's my goal. I've worked on that sculpture, and I've got it, but something that big is hard. I don't know if you guys know, my shop is really small. It's 8 by 12, I think. I don't know, when I built it a long time ago, at the time I was like, man, this is great, it's huge. It's small. It's super small. So doing large things like that are going to be a challenge, but worth it. All right, we've cast it up. I just want to point out, just look at this table. Look at this table. I know I have a how-to video. You should watch it if you haven't already. I talk about every step along the way in what I do to cast, but look at this. I just want to point it out. Like, there's little to nothing on this table, and that's how you want your cast to come out. You don't want a big blob of urethane piling up. If that's happening, you're losing valuable thickness. So even while I'm talking, and usually I'm distracted doing that, I am constantly moving this mold around so that I don't get a flood and I don't get puddles in the cowl. I mean, you're going to get puddle here or puddle here, but I'd rather have it in there. But, you know, you don't want a super thick puddle either. This cowl, this is the first time casting this cowl, so I have to be a little bit more vigilant when I'm doing it to make sure that I am successful with the cast. I would say it's a 50-50 chance that the first cast is going to come out a little bit wonky in some spot, but this cowl is pretty similar to, I would say, most of the cowls that I have, so I kind of already know what I need to do to make it come out successfully. But this is going to be a good one, I think. I think this cast is going to come out with just the right thicknesses everywhere. Usually in the first cast runs, just to point out, the nose and brow area tend to have less, but I've been pretty vigilant in this cast to make sure that I get those areas. But we'll see. I'll show you at the end or the beginning. I can't remember where I'm putting that, but it hasn't happened yet. But it will. We're going to let this fully cure out, then we'll powder it to give it that nice slipping, smooth on surface, and foam fill those ears. They're pretty well filled though. I got these filled almost to the very top, but again, whenever you fill those ears, it's going to level off flat, but you're going to have some of that curvature that doesn't get filled, and that's what the foam is essentially for. So everything looks clear and good. So we are going to set it, forget it, and come back. So let's do that. Oh, you're still here. Well, you know what that means. You're my #1 fan. And since you're my #1 fan, I could use your help. I'm really wanting to get started with my how-to series, and I need a place to start, which is the sculpture. But I'm not sure what to do, but you probably do. So if you've got the time, could you let me know in the comments something that would be really cool to sculpt and show you how to make it all the way to the end? I'd greatly appreciate it. Oh, you know, and like, subscribe, all that fun stuff if you haven't already. But you're my #1 fan, of course you have. Go on. I got work to do, but don't forget to comment.